morning, everybody. This will be a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council. Today is Friday, July 20th, 2001. We need 10 members for a quorum. Mr. Burnson, Ms. Galanter, Mr. Garcetti, Ms. Hahn, Mr. Holden, Ms. Misikowski, Mr. Pacheco, Ms. Perry, Mr. Reyes, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Wax, Mr. Weiss, and Mr. Zine. If you're in the building, please make your way to council chambers. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the meeting of the Los Angeles City Council for Friday, July 20th, the year is 2001. It is, colleagues, I'll call your attention to the clock, nearly 10:30. Council meets Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 a.m., so we thank the public for their patience. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bernstein, Galanter, Garcetti, Hahn, Holden, Miskowski, Pacheco, Perry, Reyes, Ridley, Thomas, Wax, Weisstein, and Padilla, 10 members present and in quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Ms. Hahn moves, Mr. Garcetti seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Ridley Thomas moves and Mr. Reyes seconds. As part of our tradition here on Fridays, we allow for presentations by council members. The chair recognizes Mr. Holden for a presentation.
The honored guest is about 2 minutes away, Mr. President.
About 2 minutes away.
Unless you have someone else.
Okay, and if that's the case, Mr. Ridley Thomas, would you please come forward and take the chair, because the other presentation this morning is one of mine.
The chair recognizes Mr. Padilla for a very special presentation. Sir.
Absolutely. Colleagues, I'm privileged to say this is a group of charros and a group of escaramuzas from my district, but a couple of council members have already recognized their leader, Leonardo Lopez, who has a business presence in various parts of the city. But today, they're once again worthy of recognition for recent accomplishments in a statewide competition, both as charros and as escaramuzas. Competitions of horse riding, bull riding, roping, and other stunts that are not only traditions but part of the Mexican culture. And it's not just in Mexico anymore. There is an equestrian center in the city of Los Angeles at Hanson Dam. The Hanson Dam Equestrian Center is the home field for the group behind me, and recently they competed with 80 teams from throughout the state of California. The group of escaramuzas, the women, placed third statewide, which is a great accomplishment. The men placed first in the statewide competition and will now represent California in not just a national but an international competition to take place in the city of Juarez, which is in the state of Chihuahua, next to El Paso, Texas. And so today we honor and we recognize the group of charros and the group of escaramuzas for their accomplishments in the state of California and for the pride that they bring to the San Fernando Valley and to the city of Los Angeles. We wish them well in the national and international competitions and look forward to welcoming them back as world champions. I'd like to read off the names of the charros and escaramuzas quickly. The men, the team is made up of Leonardo Lopez, Fernando Lopez, Eduardo Lopez. I think we see a trend here. Rafael Cabral, Ramiro Gurrola, Roberto Lara, Victor Rodriguez, Raimundo Flores, Jaime Lopez, Andres Quintero, Hipólito Lopez, and Leonardo Lopez Jr. Let's give them a big round of applause. And in Spanish, there's a saying that las mujeres también pueden. The women can also do it too. The Escaramuza group is made up of Virginia Arreola, Gabriela Gandara, Marisela Lopez, Edith Gurrola, Carmen Soto, Liseth Lopez, Lupita de la Torre, and Diana de la Torre. Let's give them a round of applause as well. And at this point in time, I'd like to call forward the leader of them all, the one and only, the Leonardo Lopez, to receive this certificate of congratulations on behalf of the city of Los Angeles.
Yeah, I want to thank you very much to Council member Alex Padilla. thank you very much, City of Los Angeles, for letting us practice our beautiful sport. And I really appreciate what you've done for us on the 7th District, Mr. Councilman Alex Padilla.
Hey, hold on a minute. Mr. Padilla, may I take this opportunity to also salute Leonardo, who has several establishments in the 8th district, and we've had a long-standing relationship, and early on presented himself as one of my supporters, and he's been consistent in that regard. And we salute you, Leonardo, and all of those who are contributing such a significant amount to the cultural enrichment of the city of Los Angeles.
Mr. Chair, I want to thank you very much for this opportunity and take the opportunity to invite all the council members and really all the city of Los Angeles, because there's a lot of people watching on television at home, to please come out to the Hanson Dam Equestrian Center at minimum most Sundays. There's a performance going on. You're all welcome to enjoy this treasure in the city of Los Angeles. Thank you very much.
One quick picture right here with the councilman and in the middle. That's it. Here we are. Right here, please. All right. Now, right here, please. Right to the camera. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. The chair now recognizes Mr. Holden.
Steve Kim is not here. And because he's not here, he won't be here. I heard you. Did he tell you? This is a surprise? Why'd you write it like this then? You all know Steve Kim. He's been around here 8 years or more or so. And he was the youngest deputy at one point. And he hasn't grown up yet because he's still the youngest individual being appointed by the President of Korea to serve in a reunification committee. On the occasion of your appointment to the Advisory Council on Democratic and Peaceful Unification, it is especially noteworthy that you are the youngest person appointed to the council, which advises the President of the Republic of Korea on issues involving unification of the North and South Korea. Your participation on this distinguished committee that will work to understand the desires of Korean people regarding reunification, gather public opinion outside Korea through seminars and symposiums, and to report to the President is acknowledged, appreciated, and applauded. I never knew you had that kind of contact with the greenhouse. The greenhouse is, the Blue House. The Blue House is where the President lives in Korea. Steve would have the occasion to visit Korea periodically, and I know we were there once when the President was sworn in. In fact, the President came to Koreatown, and we welcomed him there. And that's where Steve got to know the President got to know him, and did not forget him. He made that kind of an impression on the President of Korea, President Kim. So it's indeed my pleasure to congratulate you on the part of the 10th District in the City of Los Angeles, present to you this certificate of congratulations for being such a visible person, so much so that the President of Korea acknowledged your presence and give you an awesome responsibility to assist him as he go about doing his job as President of Korea. So now they say you're going to have to go to some seminars and things like that, but you have to request time off for that. In Korean.
In Korean? I'll keep it in English.
No, Korean.
In Korean?
Yeah. Translate later.
저 시의회 앞에서 여러분 앞에 이렇게 대통령의 임명이 돼서 큰 영광이라고 생각하고 열심히 2년 동안 열심히 평통 한국과 북한의 사이를 열심히 하기 위해서 열심히 노력하겠습니다. 대단히 감사합니다. This certainly was a surprise for me. I was waiting for Councilman's car on Main Street so I could park his car, and I walk up here, and this was really a surprise. It's going to be a great challenge for me on this committee, and I certainly look forward to working on the reunification of North and South Korea. And I want to thank Councilman Holden and the rest of the City Council for this great honor. And I will definitely represent not only 10th District, but City of Los Angeles on this board. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Kamsahamnida. That was a correct interpretation.
Thank you. That's right.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So thank you very much, Mr. Holden. Mr. Clerk, next item.
First item of business, item number 9, request that matter be continued till July 24th.
Members request to continue item number 9 until the 24th. Any comments or objections? Then without objection, we will continue item number 9. Want to call attention to a public comment card that was submitted by J.K. Drummond. Two things. One is this item did have a hearing in committee. And second, to the fact that we are continuing this item until the 24th. So without objection, that item is continued. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, items number 1 and 2 on the regular agenda are items noticed for public hearing.
Okay, the public hearing is open on items 1 and 2. We do have public comment cards submitted on item number 2. We'll call that special. Any members of the public wishing to speak on item number 1? And seeing no requests, we shall now close the public hearing. Any members wishing to speak on item number 1? Seeing none, with 11 members present, and I believe that's the best we're going to have in terms of attendance today. Clerk, please open the roll on the first hearing of item number 1. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
11 ayes on that item. It is an ordinance that carries over for a second reading. Mr. Clerk.
Items number 3 through 8 on the regular agenda are items for which public hearings have been held.
Members, items 3 through 8 are before us. Hearings have been held on this item. Any specials? Mr. Reyes calls item number 3 special. Mr. Holden?
5 and 6.
Mr. Holden calls items 6 and 5 special. Any other specials? Clerk, please open the roll on...
Eight special, please. 8.
Ms. Misikowski calls item 8 special. Item 9 has been continued. Clerk, please open the roll on items 4 and 7. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those items are approved. Next item, please.
Items numbers 10 through 13 on the regular agenda are items for which public hearings have not been held.
Then we now officially open the public hearing. Any members of the public wishing to speak on items 10 through 13?
Did we or did we not? We have.
Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Any members wishing to speak on items 10 through 13? No specials? Clerk, please open the roll on items 10 through 13. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those items are approved.
Mr. President, item number 12 is an ordinance that will be held over for a second reading on July 27th.
That is correct. Next item, please.
On the continuation agenda, item number 14, a motion is required from the floor inasmuch as there's 2 reports on each one file, and its public hearing has been held.
Item number 14 is before us. What is that item, Mr. Clerk?
It's a transportation report and an amending motion.
Mr. Holden, do you wish to speak on item number 14? One of the amendments offered is your amendment.
I would respectfully request that we withdraw amending motion B and substitute, which one is it? 14C.
14C, has that been introduced and distributed?
Yes. Copies are being distributed.
Let's call that item special while copies are being distributed. Let's hold that on the desk. We'll come back to it. Next item, please.
Mr. President, that brings you to item number 2, which is item notice for public hearing.
Okay, and we do have a couple of cards on item number 2. This opens the public hearing. Council calls forward Ms. Pam Schmidt to be followed by Jack Allen.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Pam Schmidt. I'm an attorney at Jeffrey Mangels Butler Marlboro. We represent Mr. Ronan. It is his home that is trying to be constructed. The Pacific Palisades Community Council has appealed from a decision of the Deputy Advisory Agency permitting the construction to proceed, subject to some modification of the grading. All the issues raised, the grading was stopped in January of 2000. In the last year and a half, all of possible issues on the grading and this house has been raised and reviewed repeatedly by the city. Most recently, the Plum Committee requested the Building and Safety review their determination that the grading of the house was safe and that the slope was safe. They did reaffirm their determination. We would ask that the council uphold the Plum Committee's decision to deny the appeal and to deny the appeal today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jack Allen.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the council. I'm Jack Allen, appearing on behalf of the appellant Pacific Palisades Community Council. The Neighborhood Council for the Pacific Palisades since 1972. In our role as a citizen watchdog, this case arose. One of our citizens discovered a lot of grading going on an unstable hillside that should not have been permitted. On investigation, it was discovered that the owner was violating restricted imposed in the parcel map approval, which stated that no building pads are proposed for this project. The structures will be constructed on caissons and grade beams. Grading will be limited to approximately 300 yards of earth will be removed and recompacted for remedial grading purposes, which allocated about 75 cubic yards per lot for driveways. What happened is the developer submitted plans to the Department of Building and Safety to create a flat building pad instead of using caissons, and applied to cut and fill 1,760 cubic yards of fill, 1,700 yards more than he was permitted by the restrictions. Building and Safety overlooked the restriction in the parcel map approval, restricting no building pads, and issued a permit. After the mistake was discovered, the city investigated and found the developer had cut and filled an additional 1,000 cubic yards above what he was permitted in the city permit, and they issued the stop order. The developer then applied for a modification of the parcel map, and the planning department merely rubber stamped it. We appealed from that decision because we felt that they ignored a substantial modification to the EIR and that the potential impacts of the grading could have on the stability of the property had not been studied, among other things.
We'll ask you to conclude, please.
All right. Well, the council hired an independent geologist to study the geologist's reports, and he concluded that based on the boring logs on the subject property, there was a high level of groundwater, but the effects of the groundwater on the stability of the property could not be ascertained because of inadequate data. He also concluded that stability analysis were speculative because of inadequate data. He recommended that a groundwater contour map be prepared on the property installing piezometers. As expected, the city geologist rejected his recommendations, which didn't surprise us because in my almost 30 years before this council, I have never seen the grading division ever admit that they made a mistake after an independent geologist criticized them.
Thank you very much. This now concludes the public hearing on this item. The chair recognizes Ms. Misikowski.
President. This is a parcel map modification in the 11th Council District, and as indicated, when a mistake was found, the city issued a stop order on the property, required a modification request to be submitted, and in that modification request, instead of rubber stamping it, what we did was require that the city's geologist re-review the entirety of this property. This property has a longer than a 10-year history, although this specific map is 10 years old. My office set up meetings with the city geologist and the appellants geologist, and in fact, the city's geologist reconfirmed every single boring and the grading and the drainage, and reinforced some of the conditions that are critical relative to water on this property, and in fact, recalculated the stability of this slope based on the most conservative estimates as put forward by the appellant's geologist. So they didn't take the property owner's geologist and say that's good enough. They went even further, took the appellant's geologist, reconfigured everything, recalculated everything, and feel that with the conditions as recommended, this property is safe, reinforce the appropriateness of the conditions not only on this parcel but the adjoining parcels, and as a consequence, the Plum Committee did recommend adopting the findings and denying the appeal with that recertification, reaffirmation of the safety of the slopes in this property. So I'm asking the Council to adopt the Plum recommendation.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to speak on item number 2? Seeing none, clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Item 2 is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 3, called special by Councilmember Reyes.
Item number 3 is now before us. The chair recognizes Mr. Reyes.
Yes, Council President, members of the council, I'd just like to see if we can get this report back in 60 days. If not a full report, a status report.
Is that an amendment to the item?
Yes.
Requesting a staff report back in 60 days?
Yes.
To which committee?
Get back to Budget and Finance.
Back to Budget and Finance. Members, there's an amendment on item number 3. Without objection, clerk, please open the roll on item number 3 with the additional request for a report back. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That item is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 5, called special by Councilmember Holden.
Item number 5 is now before us. The chair recognizes Mr. Holden.
Mr. President, members, this is an issue dealing with supernova, and I think it's appropriate. I perhaps missed that committee hearing, but Mr. Hernandez is an expert in this subject matter, and I think not only will I benefit, but maybe others as well. If you can explain to us why he made the recommendation that it be approved by the full council. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll hold my time. That's better than
I'll hold your time.
That's better than having the department come down here and do it.
Mr. President, congratulations to Council President Padilla and members of the council. As you all know, Mr. Holden has asked me to work on his staff, particularly in the areas of the block grant, and he wanted me to make a presentation to the full council today in regards to item 5. And I just wanted to give you, because many of you are new members, an understanding of the supernova that goes out every year. When it was brought to my attention, we had just formed a grants committee that was made up of the chair of CED as well as the chair of CRNH and the chair of Budget and Finance. And part of the problem at that time is we didn't understand what the supernova was. And what happens, the federal government once a year puts out a notice of funding availability, and it's all their federal funds and projects that are available. And all the committees, basically the department heads in terms of the Department of Housing, as well as CRA, as well as the Community Development Department, as well as LASA, as well as the HACLA, the Housing Authority, they come to report to us as to any applications they submit in regards to federal funds. What we found is that the City of Los Angeles, the departments do a very good job in submitting applications, and there's very little new money that is available. and we're on an ongoing basis advocating for additional grants. In the area of the housing projects of the City of Los Angeles is where we find the potential for many new applications for smaller funds, whether it be lead abatement, it be resident education and participation in job training programs and so forth. And at the time when we first started this Grants Oversight Committee, we had a clear understanding that we as a city were not coordinating our lobbying activity in Washington, D.C. with the potential to seek additional funds for purposes of grants, particularly in the area of our housing authority. So that became a greater focus of the committee, and I wanted Councilmember Hahn to have that understanding. I think Councilmember Pacheco already had that understanding. I think that the Grants Oversight Committee that looks at the Supernova has the opportunity to encourage the Washington staff as well as the state staff to basically bring to the attention of the full council potential grants that are out there. And then us being able to shape our policies and our programs in trying to secure additional money. And that's what the Supernova is about. Overall, I can share with you that the Community Development Department, the Housing Department, and CRA have been very active in trying to secure funding. In the area of economic development, I think there's new funds that basically continue to change. And I think there has to be greater attention given to the Grants Oversight Committee simply because you have a new, basically, administration in Washington, D.C. who's going to be focusing on trying to create their fingerprints on regards to the grants that are available and how it is that they can influence that. What direction should that money go? Should it go through the states? Should it go through local municipalities? And so we're going to have to be on top of that kind of information so that we can start preparing for those future changes. And again, I did want everybody to understand that I think all the departments have been playing a very active role in keeping an eye on potential funds and have been doing a very good job from the perspective of this member when I sat on the City Council. And if I could answer any questions, I'll be glad to.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Holden.
Mr. President, members, Mr. Hernandez, and item 2 of this report that you submitted, it talks about direct the chief legislative analyst to include in the city's legislative program requests for HUD's provisions of the city's fair share of Supernova funding for economic development, and I thought maybe you would have touched on that, housing, drug elimination programs, and homeless shelter programs. Now, there's a certain amount of money that's been requested in your report. Do you think you've addressed it enough? You want to say a little bit more, especially about the homeless?
And I think that the report, again, the CLA's office and the CAO's office, as well as all the departments, on an ongoing basis, they're reporting to the Grants Oversight Committee what's actually available. And the intent, we as a major metropolis city in California as a whole, is not getting its fair share of funding from Washington.
Right.
And so us advocating for additional funds is important and clearly understanding how those funds should be spent. I always felt that there was kind of a gap between policymakers like us as a city council and the actual things that are going on in our districts. And so hopefully having that understanding of those grants that is available and us having an understanding of what's going on in our districts can be bridged more by having this ongoing reporting mechanism. Also, how it is that we, as office holders, can help secure those additional funds, I think is real important. Because, it's, you go back to Washington and very few people want to say no to us. And what I found what was missing is not enough of us kept on going back to Washington asking for funds. Some played that role, but not everybody plays that role. So again, us having a greater understanding of the grant process, the monies that are out there, and how it is that we can secure additional funds for our districts is the goal here. At the same time, how we get it to the city has to be the first priority. Again, this Supernova Grant Oversight Committee basically is set up to do that. That's why today it's kind of an automatic thing. It's been before us before. It's an ongoing thing, and they do report to the Grants Oversight Committee on an ongoing basis.
Right. I just want to add in close, Mr. President, that the CLA reported that the city received $1.9 million for economic development, $10 million in Section 108 funding. That's for housing, which you're probably familiar with as well. And then the department received $3 million for lead-based paint abatement. It's part of your report, Mr. Hernandez. But you also indicate here that the President of the United States in this year is going to cut, his budget will not show up in the budget, the cuts. He's going to eliminate certain programs. Then 14 public safety officers will be off duty. He's going to affect it. We could be hurt there. And the fact is that the president's budget purposes proposed cutting $700 million out of the nation's capital fund for modernization of properties and training residents. This fund will cut another $30 million. So it just emphasizes the fact that we have to do more. And thanks for the report. And I'll ask for an aye vote.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to praise this report as well. I've taken a look at it, and I think it is very important and a step in the right direction. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez, for your testimony as well. I think it's very useful for those of us interested in economic development and really ensuring that we do get our fair share. I know we're creeping towards that, but there's so many nooks and crannies in the federal grant process that we really need to have that sort of vigilance. So just wanted to commend this report. I think it's a step in the right direction. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to speak? Clerk, please open the roll on item number 5. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Item 5 is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 6, called special by Councilmember Holden.
Mr. Holden? Mr. Holden is now fine with that item. Any other members wishing to speak on item number 6? Seeing none, clerk, please open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Item 6 is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 8, called special by Councilmember Miskowski.
Item number 8 is now before us. The chair recognizes Mr. Pacheco.
Mr. President, I simply would like to move the committee reports and its recommendations at this juncture for approval.
Any other members wishing to speak on item number 8? Seeing none, clerk, please open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Forthwith,
Item
Mr.
8 is
President.
approved. We'll send that matter forward forthwith, as well as item number 4 forthwith. Item number 13 forthwith as well. Next item, please.
Mr. President, item number 14 is before you. There are 2 amending motions that have been distributed, 14C and 14D.
We have item number 14, previously offered amendment 14A, as well as 14B and C, amending motions introduced today. The chair recognizes Mr. Holden.
My motion is to withdraw B and instead substitute 14C for B. And
You care to explain the substance of your amendments?
Oh, you want to hear it? Okay. The Chevron owns the certain right-of-way for the pipes that's going to be going from Pico area in my district to the Baldwin Hills site. And they need to, those pipes are 50 years plus years old, and we're trying to avoid some kind of eruption of the pipe and therefore subsequent explosion of fire in the area. And as a preventative measure, meantime to repair the pipes or replace, Chevron is so requesting it. But Stocker Oil is going to be the new franchise owner of that pipeline. And in order to expedite this retrofit of modernizing the new pipes that will go in there, we're going to ask that either Stocker Oil or Chevron proceed to do it immediately so that we can resurface our streets. And they've been held up for a period of time waiting for this action to take place. And so, Mr. President, I move 14C.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ridley Thomas.
Mr. President, members of the council, you'll take note of the fact that there is an additional amending motion on this item. And I wish to say that we should cause the appropriate departments to be fully aware of the impact that this will have on the ESIS project. In other words, the traffic impacts to the residents and others, as well as businesses for that matter, along La Cienega and Rodeo will not be insignificant. So we call for coordination, which the Board of Public Works seem to have been unaware of. I'm pleased to report, due to my staff's conversation with them, that they are going to do all that they can to correct that. The amending motion that is submitted, Ridley Thomas Padilla, essentially coordinates with the other amending motion, and I think if we would adopt this, we would have a comprehensive handle on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Item 14, 14A, I guess, is a committee report. 14C and D are before us. 14B has been withdrawn by Mr. Holden. Mr. Holden and Mr. Ridley Thomas, there appears to be no apparent conflict between your two amending motions. Is that correct? There appears to be no conflict between the amending motions
they're
offered
complementary.
by yourself and Mr. Holden.
None.
Shall we vote on all of the items together at once, colleagues, if that's your pleasure? Let's open the roll on items 14A, C, and D collectively. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those items are approved. Next item, please.
Mr. President, that brings you to public comment.
This is now the public comment period, the part of our council meetings where members of the public are invited to speak on items not appearing on today's agenda. We do have a 10-minute time allotment for public comment period. The council calls forward Mike Schaefer to be followed by Candido Mares. Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. President. About 7 years ago, the California legislature enacted a copy of 20440, the election code, of which has been placed at every member of the council's desk, called the Code of Fair Campaign Practices. And it requires that the city elections officer, county elections officer, give this to every candidate when they apply to run for office, and the candidate has the option of signing it or not signing it. I think it's a very wholesome thing. I know we are a charter city and we have the right to not do it, but there are certain basic things in our election code, like write-in voting, that we do. Maybe we've not spoken on the issue, but we do it because we realize it is a basic benefit of the public. I have asked the city clerk to distribute this Code of Fair Campaign Practices Committee, just as they do in the city of San Diego, just as they do in the city and county of San Francisco, to each candidate so that we can say yes or no to it. It mainly requires us to concentrate on the issues, to avoid character defamation, to prohibit any dishonest or unethical practices. I do have a copy of this election code section marked public comment at every member's desk. I would like to ask each member to take a look at it, and I'd be pleased if the council by a resolution would instruct the city clerk to honor election code section 20440, even though we as a charter city have a right to say no. If we are silent on the matter, I do think the public does have a right to this benefit, and I think we are obligated to do it. But I think it's administratively proper for Your Honor to have the city clerk do it as a matter of willingness.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mares.
Good morning, Mr. President, council members. You just heard Councilman Hernandez state that he was here to give you a greater understanding of the grant process. As a member of the Citizens Unit for Participation, being on that committee for almost 5 years, you don't realize how important it is for each and every one of you to understand that you need to have somebody out there, especially on the CUPS committee, and along with Mr. Hernandez, finding out what's happening to the HUD dollars, why we're losing some of the HUD dollars, why the HUD has asked us to speed up the process. So, Mr. Holden, once again, you did a marvelous thing for the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you very much. That concludes the request to speak. That concludes the public comment period for today's agenda. Clerk, next item.
Motions for posting and referral.
Those motions are posted and referred.
The desk is clear.
Any excuses from council attendance? None today?
No excuses today.
Members, Brings us to the end of the agenda. Any adjournment requests? All rise. Everybody please stand. Mr. Reyes?
Thank you, Council President. Council members, I'd like to adjourn in memory of Robert Covarrubias. Robert Bobby Covarrubias, born June 5th, 1945, passed away July 11th, 2001. Bobby was born, reared, and lived his entire life in the east side part of Los Angeles. He attended Los Angeles Community College, served 6 years of active reserve duty with the U.S. National Guard. Bobby spent the majority of his adult life working with Davis Blueprint, a family-owned business in Lincoln Heights. Even though he had no wife or children, Bobby was a tremendous family man. He is survived by a large extended family with many nieces, nephews, grandnieces, grandnephews, who lovingly called him Uncle Bobby. The community that knew him and the family that loved him will sorely miss Bobby. Thank you.
Any others? Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.
You are watching LA City View, Channel 35. Your city, your channel.